I'd never heard of Chabad until just over 10 years ago. We were living in Milan, which is where we started our business, which is a consulting business for organizations. And we work with a systemic methodology, which means that we look at organizations not as pieces, not as silos, not as functions, but we look at the whole big picture of what an organization is. And we get managers and CEOs and leaders to see that their leadership can be much more effective if they see the big picture, if they see the whole thing of what an organization really is, and they begin to design their processes, and they begin to understand on a day-to-day basis and on a whole strategic basis how seeing the big picture and how the whole thing works can improve everything that they do and everything that they're about. And while we were developing this methodology, we realized that a huge chunk of it came from Israel. And if we wanted to really get to the root of what this methodology was about, we needed to understand something more about Judaism, which we didn't know anything about at the time. And I happened to be in a bookstore in Milan, and I found a book called Towards a Meaningful Life, which is all about the work of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And I started to read this book, and that was the first time I'd ever heard anything about Chabad. Our work developed very well in Milan, and it took us to live in New York. And we knew we wanted to study more about Judaism, and by coincidence we happened to find a rabbi just around the corner, a Chabad rabbi, and we started studying with him. And that became, for us as non-Jews, a really life-transforming experience, because it allowed us to plug in to a level of knowledge about a whole philosophy, a whole worldview that is applied not just to day-to-day living, to ethics, to morality, but it can be applied to every kind of system, and that includes how organizations work. And we began to see how the work of the Rebbe, who's one of the greatest scholars of the 20th century, how everything he said on a mystical level could actually be applied on a practical level and on an organizational level. So that was the beginning of a long journey that has taken us to understand everything that we do work-wise on a different level. And it became really something that we're very passionate about. And so my husband and I have been supporters of Chabad since we lived in New York. We moved to Vancouver Island 2.5 years ago, and one of the first things we looked at when we decided to move here was, is there a good Chabad rabbi? We did our homework, and we discovered that Rabbi Kaplan was here, and we were delighted to be able to start studying with him. And as we know so many people in the Chabad organization, it's a wonderful network all over the world. So for us to be able to see how Rabbi Kaplan and his wife Hani are developing things here, and that they have the opportunity now to create this whole new synagogue on the island, it's a wonderful thing, and we are only too happy to contribute to it.